We break down everything that you need to know about Wednesday's practice next on the Unbearable Sports Podcast.
I'm going to take the North and never give it back.
So that's a good pick. You get the corner. I got to go bold, right? I got to go bold for this.
Yeah, she's got some nice.
Welcome back to the Unbearable Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Brad. Make sure to like and subscribe if you're out there on YouTube, and also rate the show 5 stars everywhere that you get your podcast. What is going on, Bears fans? This practice this week was probably one of the more chill ones. We had 2 straight days of padded practices, and yesterday was absolutely crazy with the pads popping and everything like that. Today's practice, a lot more low-key. A lot of people talking about it being a lot more reserved. Not as much to kind of talk about, but we'll still break it down for you, the people. So as we always do, let's tackle the injuries first. Where from an injury perspective, Braxton Jones was out because of a day of rest. So nothing concerning, no setback as far as we know. It's just a scheduled day of rest. And it seemed like some others weren't out there as well. Bill Murray, Ricky Stromberg, Zay Frazier still out, our corner. Shamar Turner was out as well. And also Jonah Jackson out with a leg injury that should be day to day. That's as far as we know right now, but something to just monitor at least with that right guard spot, because Jonah Jackson banged up a little bit last year for the Rams. Now, right, a little nick. It seems like it's just a little nick, but something that we'll just continue to monitor moving forward. But like I said before, the instant reaction, there's not a lot that happened today. I was hearing one person talk about it, saying that basically for the first 45 minutes, they weren't really doing anything. And then they started practicing. And so it was a lot more scaled back, not as many things. So there's some interviews that I'll kind of bring up as well. But really just overall, much more scaled back. There will be pads tomorrow, and I believe also on Saturday, because on Friday then they then have to take the day off. But really, yeah, nothing too much. Other piece too, lots of red zone drills that were happening as well. So big pieces are those. So as for like winners and losers, it's kind of just broad, right? So if we're talking about the hype train winners, and actually just to kind of add more into that instant reaction, you can kind of see some of the pieces out here that I have on YouTube. We'll actually talk about this a little bit more as we break into the offense. But we have to go to everyone's favorite segment, the hype train. So I have to do this every single day. So whenever we have a practice, who's the person who's getting the most hype today? And I'd say that the person getting the most hype is Luther Burden. Luther Burden, I don't have the clip up because sometimes when I post clips, sometimes I get demonetized and dinged by YouTube. So you can blame YouTube, you can blame the NFL, and you can blame that stuff. But one of the big things is with Luther Burden, he made the play of the day. Some people calling it, I think it eventually was called out of bounds, but there was a pass in the end zone, and I guess Luther Burden, I have not seen the video of this, but I guess it was reported, jumps up, makes a great catch, just couldn't get both feet in bounds, but people were saying it really kind of turned some heads. But also right away, Luther Burden caught a pass in the middle. Some of you might have seen that slant, but gets a ball right in the middle of the field and then takes it to the house. Might have been tackled originally, but it's just nice to see Luther Burden just with the pop of speed, because yet again, they're in shells right now. They're not going to be actually tackling. So it's just the standard, try to punch the ball out and then he moves forward. But it's just nice to just see Luther getting the ball and out there. And as far as I know, was not yelled at as much as he did yesterday. So it's good to see him just continuously to move on, because yet again, very, very far behind in the playbook, but you do see just his work ethic, because got yelled at yesterday, but now nothing today. So hopefully that just continues to keep on going. But the next person, I want to actually just shed a little bit of light on this person, because yesterday, as I was talking through the show, you might have noticed I actually had a mini pause when I was talking about the offensive linemen and talking about the centers, because Kramer is usually the backup center. And then we have Newman as the actual center. That's the third string center. And I kind of paused because I was thinking about, well, where's Ryan Bates? Because I really haven't heard much about Ryan Bates. I haven't heard, is he injured as he normally is? But no, Ryan Bates is out there. And I want to just kind of add this to the hype train, because Ryan Bates, when he was out there, some people did say he looked good. He at least could play. But yet again, we know that there's some arthritis that's going on. What is it? Arthritis in his neck, I believe. It's some form of arthritis. And I feel like with that arthritis, obviously, it gets you nervous. It's serious, right? But it's nice that he's at least out there. And that's why I wanted to kind of boost the hype train. Because if you get a healthy Ryan Bates for the entire season, that gives you a good depth spot at that guard spot, right? We'll see what Bill Murray ends up being. We'll see how he plays inside of the preseason. But Ryan Bates is a good backup guard. It's just when you try to move him as your starting center that I start to get frustrated, or you keep trading draft picks for him. That's when I don't necessarily like Ryan Bates. But Ryan Bates as your backup guard, and also all the competition we've had at the tackle spot, and all the reports are like, listen, these guys aren't bad. They're all NFL players, which is what you love to hear, at least with it. It's one of the best things that could happen, besides one just being an absolute freak of nature and winning the job outright easily. That'd be the next, but I still like that all three of those tackles are looking good, which makes you feel good about the depth of the offensive line, because I know that that's what a lot of people's concerns was, hey, we need more depth. But if you have a healthy Ryan Bates and you have, let's just say Braxton wins it, right? Let's just say the incumbent ends up keeping it. You have Ozzie as the backup, and you have Karan, who's not been bad in training camp. That feels good. Then you just have the question about the center position, because I don't like Doug Kramer as a center. He gets bullied a little bit too much for my liking. So you're just really more so concerned about the center position, which, you might have some people come in, but you feel better about this whole depth. So that's just my whole little hype train rant that I wanted to go on. But let's go into the reality check, where I do need to call someone out, and that's Dioenbo. This is another time that, like, when people see him, you're right, I'm not flashing the alarms or anything like that. I just have to, I need, for the sake of the segment, I have to add someone. And the thing that does not look good is if, for those that are out there that saw the read option that Caleb had. So for those that didn't see it, let me try and illustrate it for you. So it's a read option, which means snap back, and I believe Caleb is in the shotgun. He's got the ball, and then he's looking at, okay, the defensive end. If you crash on the running back, I'm going to take off. And Dio has the outside edge. What he ends up doing is he's kind of sitting on the outside and then darts over to the running back, totally misreads it, and then Caleb starts running off. And then at that time, you have a pulling Colson Loveland. Colson Loveland makes a beautiful block on the outside. Caleb Williams easily gets in for a touchdown. And I saw a couple people, who's 55? 55 looks like garbage out there. That was Dioenbo. So not a good look for him. There's already some people saying that he looks slow, doesn't look like a pass rusher, even though that was his specialty, or like his quote unquote specialty coming out. So that's something that you just don't love to see out of the person that we just did a huge contract for, that you're kind of hoping for this upside. You'll call it this potential. So that's why my little reality check. I know I talked a little bit about it yesterday, but he's my official reality check star, you could say, of today, where it's a little bit down. But now let's get into the offense, because there's a couple pieces that I wanted to break down from the offense perspective. Overall, the offense was smoother. Carm from CHGO saying Caleb's process was better. He felt like he was smoother in and out of the huddle. And I just kept hearing that, right? It's just Caleb continues to progress. And this is what we talked about last week when they had, 3 bad practices in a row, is, hey, he's going to be learning these things. And I said on that show, I'm waiting until week 2. Are things looking better? This is exactly what we want to see. Things are trending in the right direction. But for those out there on YouTube, I posted a couple little nuggets that were out there on Twitter from Braggs, Zach Pearson, Patrick Finley. And I also wanted to include Patrick Finley just because he finds sometimes the way to grab whatever the negative nugget is and just post it. Right. And I understand reporting, but this was one of his only tweets of the day. That was, practice is over. They wore shells and did very little. The last team period, 5 plays for first team, was no bueno for the past game. Caleb went 0 for 2 and was sacked. He scored on a read option keeper, right? And that was the last little play. They did that. So obviously you want to see that better. But Zach Pearson mentioned, nice start at the very beginning of the practice, 11 on 11s. Caleb Williams in the offense, 3 straight completions, 1 over the middle to Luther Burden. That was the one that kind of turned some of the heads. But yeah, Greg Braggs also mentioned too some mistakes pre-snap today in the team drills. Already a few flags thrown before the snap, first, second, and third units. So also mentioning too, Luther Burden making plays. So yeah, Luther Burden, big star of today. But yes, it's not, and I want to make this clear, it's not perfect with the offense, but it's progress. And I think that's the key thing, is this is also, at the end of the day, this is a practice, right? This isn't a true game. This isn't anything like that, but it's just nice to see that there's some progression. Also, everybody wants to know about this. Ozzie was the person taking first team reps because Braxton Jones out. So you saw Ozzie doing that. Also, another piece too is it looks like they're going to try and get define the starter before the first game. And that's where, to me, it's still going to be Ozzie or Braxton. And I still feel like it's going to be those two, especially you see another day that Ozzie is actually getting the first team reps, where it feels like, hey, would this have been Karan's turn to get those first team reps? But we'll see tomorrow if that ends up changing at all. Also too, another piece with this offense, just something noteworthy. People kept reporting that they are running to the line from the offensive perspective. So they are, as soon as they get the play, they're sprinting out to the line. They're trying to get quick so that they can see what's going out there. So just quick urgency, and yet again, kind of coaching things right so that they can kind of visualize what's happening out there and also try to get the offense or defense off guard. But yeah, overall progression, right? They're not absolutely dominating the defense or anything like that, but they're just showing steps in the right direction. But with all that being said, the defense was someone that really kind of got a lot of the headlines when Dennis Allen said that the cornerback 2 job is up for grabs. So who's going to actually get that cornerback 2 job? That is probably going to be either Terrell Smith I think Terrell Smith has a good chance. Otherwise, Nahshon Wright. He's someone that has gotten those number 1 corner snaps with Jalen Johnson out. Someone who's also very familiar with the system. And so, like we've always kind of talked about, someone very familiar with Al Harris. Also, McLeod got a shout out, a unprompted shout out from Dennis Allen, another cornerback too. So also, this just boils down to Tyreek Stevenson. Is he going to be the cornerback too? I feel like I say this every single episode, but to me, I still think that he fits the mold well of what they want, but it doesn't necessarily mean that he's who they want out there as the player. I'd love to see him kind of take that next step. So I like that at least. But when you're talking about who I feel most comfortable out there, week 1, it's still Terrell Smith. Terrell Smith has shown us every time that he's out there, he's been a good cornerback. He can tackle, he can cover. He's just not the flashiest of guys. And you know what? I'm fine with that. When you have Kyler Gordon flying around and you have Jalen Johnson flying around, I'm fine with that. Nahshon Wright would be the only one that I kind of pull back a little bit from, just because we've seen him as a starter. He's not great. I don't expect something to all of a sudden come out because, Al Harris was already his coach. So to me, that's the only person that I'm a little bit more hesitant on. I'd rather see Tyreek Stevenson or a Terrell Smith out there. But also too, last little piece, Dennis Allen is moving people around, trying out different alignments like dime, like he'll go out with 3 linebackers. And he was asked about that today, and he was talking about, hey, I just want to make sure that our best players are out there and see what are the best formations that we can have when we roll everybody out there. I don't love the idea of dime defense just because I don't know who can kind of play that slot role. That's one question that I have. I almost like the idea of having a safety out there instead in the slot. But something just to kind of keep in mind. But last little bits before we kind of close this out, there was some I heard Adam Hogue kind of talk about the punt returner a little bit from CHGO, and he was asked about it, and he said to him, nobody really stands out as a punt returner so far. I know a lot of people want Devin Duvernay, but the person that I still want to see it, just because I want to see Luther Burden. He's different when the ball's in his hands. He's a rookie. Get the ball out there with him. And yeah, there's an injury concern when you have somebody as the punt returner, but I just feel like, okay, you have Colson Loveland, right? You have these extra tight ends that can play, and you have Olamide Zaccheaus that can be a backup wide receiver in case he gets hurt, right? But I just like the idea of who's the most explosive person that you could put back there. Luther Burden. And Luther Burden's probably not going to be out there for every snap on offense. I still like the idea of him as punt returner. But hey, if you don't, let me know down in the comments. And if you do, let me know down in the comments. And make sure to hit that subscribe button so you do not miss another training camp update. And also download the podcast everywhere you get your podcast. Just search for Unbearable Sports on Spotify, on Apple Music, iHeartRadio, wherever you want to find us, you can find us. And with that, Unbearable Sports Podcast, we are out.
Yeah, she's got some nice long hair, and you know that she's a bride.